Hey, college baseball fans, especially obviously our ACC fans. We are live. I'm coming to you from Durham, North Carolina. Jake, I'm assuming, is coming from his wonderful home in Texas. I am loving the choice of ACC background for you there, Jake.
Yep,
Solid
had,
choice
had
with
to
the
represent. I don't know if you can see them. They got our two
retro
ACC
jerseys.
teams.
I'm digging
Yep,
the retro jerseys. Not super retro, but not the ones they're rocking now.
I think
But
this one's
as
actually like a game worn one. I got it like during a sale that they had a few years back. So,
Virginia or
yeah, the Virginia one.
Yeah, yeah, those are definitely. I missed out on those, and I'm still upset about it to this day. One day I had the opportunity to purchase the when Virginia did the Astro jerseys, and I didn't pull the trigger, and I'm still my biggest regret of all time because it was $25, and I don't know why I thought $25 was going to make or break me in college, but I guess at that time it would have. But I'm going to try to talk as best as I can. I'm losing my voice. My allergies are kicking my butt, and the Bosch man tonight was so electric that just to talk to your neighbor, you had to kind of use your outdoor voices a little bit. But I say we just jump right into it, Jake. First off, before we even go into the games, let's just quickly. I mean, Jake, you're an ACC guy, but let's be real, you're not as ACC as myself and Monty and the others. From the outsider's perspective, somebody who's gonna, I'm assuming you're gonna be in College Station tomorrow. Is that
Yes,
correct? Yeah, like
yes.
someone that's from the outside going to be doing the SEC regional with Oregon and Texas A&M tomorrow. What did you see from the ACC? Because obviously 3 of the 4 games were ACC games, and obviously all 3 went the ACC's way.
I mean, from a crowd standpoint, I think that they're on par with SEC crowds. I know that that's always kind of been a big knock, is that it just means more in the SEC. Florida State, first of all, it feels like an SEC school in every sense of the word. Um, it really kind of lived up to it. I truly felt jealous that I wasn't at their stadium. Their stadium's probably one of the best in the country. The fans truly come out, make it electric. I love K time. It's probably one of my favorite chants. Virginia. I even texted Monty about it because I said, "Oh, I thought Virginia was kind of a wine and cheese crowd." He goes, "No, that's only during the regular seasons. Like they show out during the postseason." And then North Carolina. I mean, it wasn't as rowdy as some of the other places in the country. Definitely not as rowdy as I think A&M was last weekend, but there's got to be something in the water because they have the best home record in the country. Like I think they only have that one loss. Everything was just on par. I had said to an SEC guy that I think the ACC top to bottom clears the SEC, and it's starting to kind of come to fruition a little bit as a lot of the ACC teams locked out the SEC teams. So we'll get Georgia Tech tomorrow. That'll kind of be our last one, and then it's feeling like Omaha is going to be the SEC North, ACC West tour. I know that there'll probably be somebody that comes in and shocks us, but it really kind of feels like an SEC, ACC, almost like that last weekend in college football where it's just all SEC, ACC.
Yeah, I'm going to save you because obviously you meant to say Georgia and NC State, not Georgia Tech. That was last weekend, but
Yeah, I mean, I was
I
just
know what
so
you were
blown
going
away.
with there. But I just want to save you from people going, "Does this guy even know what he's talking about?"
I
Guys,
was just so blown. I'm still sad that we don't get to watch Burris and Patel and Scary Terry. I'm
I've
just
been I've
hoping.
been very fortunate that my last couple weekends I've gotten to watch Cam Canarella, Jacob Hinderleiter, Charlie Condon, Drew Burris. Now I'm watching Vance Honeycutt, JJ Weatherholt. I'm getting very fortunate on some of the guys I'm getting to watch right now in the last couple weekends. But Jacob, I like your comment on the ACC. I don't know if I'd say the ACC is still better than the SEC, but I will say that it's like the gap that everyone says exists. I don't think is as obvious as one would say. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like, yeah, the AC teams played the Big 12 teams today, but those Big 12 teams, well, I guess technically only one of them, but they had to go into SEC territory and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's a big thing. Kansas State though, they never met Arkansas, did they? Because
Um,
Arkansas lost to SEMO. No, they would have played Kansas
They
State because they
played
won game
they
one.
they did
Yeah,
they
they
did
won
the
game
old,
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
which I think that's probably one of the tougher things to do that a lot of people don't really talk about is if you drop that Saturday game in
yeah.
the 1-0, you got to wake up and kind of play the next one. That's a very, very quick turnaround. And I know for Texas, they kind of sleptwalk through it because, they had said that the game ended after midnight. By the time they kind of got done, rested, body got done, it was 3 or 4 a.m. You got to get up, get to BP at 10:30. There's a lot, and you can't drink Celsius's because it'll pop you for steroids. So that's a very, very underrated aspect of it. And I mean, it's going to be tough. I think I still miss Duke, and I kind of wish that Duke was playing in this Florida State series as we kind of transition into that. But um, Florida State, what more can you say about that outing today from a Micah?
I mean, that is the definition. I'm gonna pull my best version of myself and gotta rep all the brands here. I think for me, right, the thing that was most impressive was how this team kind of just backed up, Dorsey. I would say Dorsey really wasn't on his best yet, but at the end of the day, right? I mean, 24 runs is 24 runs, and some of it was late in garbage time. But I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like, Din just gets it going. I mean, I think it's super cool, Jake, that there's a good chance Florida State, if they were to advance, might be the first game of Omaha. And how great would it be if Florida State's the first team to homer in regionals, super regionals, and in Omaha? That would be
Well,
nice.
so you mentioned that home run in the top of the first, but what about Max Williams, like in the top of the first with a diving catch into the
Oh
gap?
yeah,
That
saves
just
a.
like truly set the tone for the day. Because
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was already going to be a long day when they were facing this Florida State lineup, and then the balls like that aren't really dropping. And Florida
yeah,
State, you were there earlier this year. It's a very underrated big ballpark. Like
yeah,
it gets very, very deep out in the gaps in the corners. I know it's really shallow down the line, but that's a lot of ground to cover out there in center field.
yeah. I mean, the thing too with Florida State, right, was I want to tip my hat to the crowd. Tickets were $13 on SeatGeek, and it had me wondering, Jake, like, not that it was going to be empty, right? But like, is the crowd going to be good? It's noon on a Friday. No offense to UConn, right? But like, that's not a brand that gets people to potentially skip work for on a Friday, knowing there's a game again the next day. And that place was packed. It was loud from the very beginning. I agree with you, Jake. Nothing makes me happier than K time. It was on every single pitch for a while there. It was kind of funny. UConn would either get on base or just foul off 7 straight in a row before, like, the K time finally started to work for them. But I think you look at the box score, every single person, excuse me, in the lineup besides Cantu and Farrow got a base hit, which is crazy. Obviously
Cantu
Fisher
also
came
walked
in.
4 times
Yeah,
though, just
Fisher
to kind of
came
give
in
him a
as a
little bit
pinch
of a
hitter, but I mean he
pass.
walked twice. So again, like, that is what it is. But yeah, it was. I mean, this was an absolutely impressive day. They didn't really have to use a lot of their arms, right? The main bullpen arm they had to use was Charles, but Holtz and Short and Barrett come in, and not that those guys aren't important to Florida State in the long run, but that saves some of your best arms for tomorrow if needed. Which, again, when you go into the Jamie Arnold startup 1-0, I mean, Quigley is what he is for UConn. He's a pretty good guy. He's probably their ace too, but no offense to Quigley or much of college baseball, right? But Jamie Arnold's top 5 pitcher in the game.
I mean,
So
I think he's him and Prager. I think the two best pitchers left in college baseball. Like,
yeah, no, there's
and
definitely. I
they
agree.
won't face each other. I know that we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but Jamie Arnold until the championship, Jamie Arnold's going to be the undisputed best pitcher on the field every time he steps on the mound going forward.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
here's the part that worries me though about this because it was a perfect game for Florida State. It felt like a game that was about 5 years in the making. Ever since Mike Martin retired, this has kind of felt like the program's just kind of been in a disarray, and this is the first time kind of being back. Schlossnagle mentioned that when they went to Omaha and lost 14-1, they came back the next day and won. Or when they lost 14-1, they came back the next day to win. Teddy Cahill tweeted something about the last team to get blown out this bad. They lost the next day. When you just beat the doors off of somebody in a Friday night or Friday afternoon, I think your complacency can kind of get to you, and it's it's got to be one where I kind of everything feels like it's set up for Florida State. They get their ace going. They blew them out last night, but it really wouldn't surprise me to kind of see UConn kind of sneak in, squeak one out in a 3-2 scenario, and then from there anybody can kind of win it. But if Florida State can play like they did today, they can play the. I mean, obviously, I don't think you walk 15 times. They're not going to be getting the bad arms that they saw at the end of the game, but it was decided very early. They were hitting the ball around the yard. They're playing tremendous defense, but just the complacency aspect really kind of worries me for Florida State.
yeah. See, that would worry me. Again, the last time that happened, it was NC State, who then went on to actually win that super against Arkansas on the way to Omaha in
That's who it
2021.
was. Yeah,
But for me, I think the difference is, and I mean, I'd have to look back on it. But how many times does that happen where the team didn't even throw their ace in game one? That's the
Yeah.
thing that I think's the difference here for Florida State is like we're not talking about just like a good starter, right? We're talking about top 5 pitcher in the sport coming out next day, bounce back, like and again, a lot of what Florida State did was with backups in the game. They didn't use a lot of arms. I want to give a shout out to obviously, Jake, you and I are very proud UConn Huskies, right? Garrett Coe comes in and really saves UConn's bullpen. This could have been a game where, UConn has to kind of throw some arms. And again, it didn't really get too far out of hand, right, until super late. But they were able to kind of use Garrett to kind of
I don't
fill
know. When
things.
he started kind of walking people with the bases loaded, that was when I kind of was like, okay, I guess they're just punting at this point.
Yeah, and that's the
That
thing.
was
Like
kind of it.
they
And again, it
decided to
was
do
very
that.
late. It was very
Yeah,
late, I should say, in his
and
outing.
and that's what was good, I think, for UConn. Right, was he was able to eat up enough innings to where like you were trying, and then it finally it got to the
Yeah.
point where it was time to rip the Band-Aid off, call it a day, regroup, come back tomorrow. So again, not to insult the guys that came in for UConn, but they were guys with very limited innings, very like guys that you're kind of on the back end of your 27 or 28, whatever it is, travel roster, that was with them. So again, that was good for UConn. But I mean, I agree that there's got to be probably a little bit of complacency, but I also think too this Florida State team, because of what happened last year where they didn't even make the tournament, I think it's a little bit different than like that Arkansas NC State situation where like
Yeah. Where they're looking
2021
ahead.
Arkansas was only a couple of years removed from what should have been a national championship, right? Like they're used to going, the Omahawks for a reason, where the Knowles haven't been there in so long that it's just kind of again special to them. So
Do you think
it'll
the
be.
heat played any kind of factor? I know UConn being a Northeast team.
I don't think so.
I mean, it's hot. Like, I'm not sure what it was in Florida, but I mean, it was 100
I mean, I
degrees when
think
we
I
were batting
think I think it's the reason
practice.
why the score may have been 24-4 because
Yeah.
UConn was probably gassed at the end and just kind of had like again kind of called off the dogs. But I mean, like you said, Max Williams set the tone with that catch, and then again the offense gets 3 in the first, and then Max Williams adds 2 more in the second. And a lot of it too, Jake, early was 2-out hitting for Florida
Yeah.
State, which is huge in postseason play, especially. It was all around, man. This was, I mean, it's crazy because we had some great games of the 3 in the ACC, right? But I mean, Florida State was by far the most impressive team. You can say what
Yeah.
you want about UConn not deserve. Like a lot of people were mentioning to us, UConn didn't deserve to be there, and you're entitled to
They
your own
won the
opinion.
regional. Okay, what do you
That's
mean
what
they
I'm
didn't
saying.
deserve to be there?
And they beat the team that I'm pretty sure won the conference that we're currently talking about. So you can't say they
Yeah.
didn't deserve to be there. But again, everyone's like, oh, they're not very good. They got lucky. Yada yada. Yeah, 24-4 is not luck. Like you
I should
have
say
to
they
smoke
did kind of
somebody.
get screwed by the scheduling committee because they played that late
Oh,
game in
it's
Oklahoma
it's
on Monday
it's to
night.
this day a bunch of. I mean, we can get into that on a separate occasion. I mean, I think we were pretty active about it on social,
Yeah,
Jake. But
that's just
I
just
mean, it
wild.
was.
I mean,
I mean,
it's,
people were like, "Oh, they're still getting 3 days off," but it's not. It's not the point. And like the thing was, I thought was funny was everyone was telling me, "Oh, they're going straight to Tallahassee." No, they didn't. They went back to stores. They practiced. They hosted recruits on Wednesday. Shout out to Teddy K. I think it was Teddy Cahill to put that out there. Like, they've had a busy week. Like, you
yeah.
know, people don't talk about like, yes, obviously the postseason matters, but it's also peak portal season. If you're trying to like come back next year, you have to do a little bit of recruiting during this week. You can't just sit by the wayside and just let it go by. So, I thought it was kind of cool. There were a couple pretty decent portal names at the Bosch tonight, Jake. That was pretty cool to kind of see. 'Cause it's like, oh, I know who you are because one of them was a SoCon guy, but yeah, it was a huge win for Florida State. They're 1 win away from Omaha, and I think what's most enticing, right, is if they were to get to Omaha, they're paired with Tennessee. I mean, I guess we're assuming I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Yeah,
I think we can
I
kind
mean
of
they look
assume.
pretty. I mean statistically, I wouldn't say we're getting ahead of ourselves too much.
Yeah,
I think it was like 70% of home teams advance out of super regionals. And if you win the first game, 78% of those teams end up advancing. So I mean, law of averages says that statistically those two teams are probably going to meet after going 1-0 at home.
yeah, and we
Um,
saw too, like with Evansville, the biggest question mark that I had was can their bullpen do enough to get a win? And like they were in that game, and the bullpen just kind of again,
Also,
it's
they're playing it
Tennessee,
at
man, they're
Lindsey
gonna bomb.
Nelson. We can kind of transition into that game. I mean, they're playing at Lindsey Nelson. They had a few kind of cheaper home runs, I think, as well
Yeah.
when I was watching that game that really kind of stood out to me. Um, but I mean, Tennessee kind of still checks all the boxes. So I think that if you're looking ahead to that Florida State Tennessee game, Like Tennessee still plays tremendous defense. They have a center fielder with an absolute cannon. They run bases aggressively. They still have that chip on their shoulder. Like, I mean, you can complain all you want about playing at Lindsey Nelson and getting cheap home runs, but at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff they do travels.
Yeah, and I mean they're smoking those balls. It's not like those balls are just barely clear in the yard. Like
Yeah.
those things are gone pretty much anywhere. So yeah, no, I mean obviously for Florida State, right, got to come back tomorrow, but with Jamie on the mound, I mean, I will say, Jake, if they lose tomorrow, the Jamie Arnold start, I might lean UConn in game
Yeah.
3 just because of what, again, Florida State's question marks, but also, too, there's the momentum from beating Jamie Arnold. I mean, that would be huge for the Huskies. So, obviously, a big deal. Is that a noon game tomorrow, Jake?
I think it's an 11 a.m. game is what I
Oh, you
saw.
might be right. I know the games are all weird. I know Tennessee's 11 tomorrow, so I don't know if there's two
I
11s.
don't
Yep,
understand
they
what they're
are at
doing with the
11. Yep,
schedule.
they're on ESPN at 11. So I guess I'll
I
be
don't know what
waking
they're
up
doing
for
with the
some fun.
scheduling. Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
I mean, the only thing that I'm going to say is someone that's covering a game at the 8 o'clock window. I'm thankful, but yeah, no, it is
I
definitely
was very
something.
thankful, just to kind of go on a tangent here. A&M's hosting the 1 o'clock game,
Yeah,
and there is a
2 o'clock
soccer
Eastern,
match.
by the way, for our ACC
Yes,
folks.
this is Central. Yeah, they're hosting a Mexican soccer event at Kyle Field against Mexico and Brazil.
Oh
And
man,
I have a few friends that are Mexican, obviously because it's Texas. They said this is like probably going to be the biggest soccer event in the world, and it's hosting the same weekend as a super regional. So a credit to them for avoiding having a 7 p.m. baseball game, 8 p.m. soccer game. So it seems like they're kind of going to blend together. The baseball crowd will kind of get out, and then the soccer crowd will kind of come in, is what they're hoping. But it could have gone really bad.
yeah, that's crazy. Only thing I'm salty about with the game time that for what I'm covering, Jake, is the Stanley Cup Final starts at 8 o'clock too. So it's like, well, I guess I'll have that pulled up on my laptop. But all right, let's move on to obviously my beloved Virginia Cavaliers. I wish Monty was here to talk about it. Monty, I'm sorry for all the negative texts that I send. Jake, I wish I might add you to the group chat one day between me and Monty and Nick, where I'm just like absolutely losing my mind, like basically like do I like like that meme where the guy's like like on the ledge, like that's me every single time with
Have
Virginia
you ever seen
baseball.
that meme where it's like a timeline? It's like, so excited to watch my team play. I'm gonna kill
Yeah,
myself, and it's like, we won. That's
we
how
won. Yeah, that is me. That is me with Virginia. But the Who's get it done 7-4. Before we break it down, Jake, did you see the Henry Godbout post game?
I saw Monty posted about it. Yeah, it was it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, the
Which
adrenaline was
it's
pumping. Everyone that's like, oh, that's bulletin. I mean, it is bulletin board material for Kansas State, but respectfully, if Kansas State can't get off the mat after what happened tonight, just purely based off the scoreboard, then obviously there's other issues to talk about with that team. And I'm not saying Kansas
I
State
didn't
can't
really get that
because
vibe from the video. I know that there's people that are doing that, but I kind of got it as a we
it's just
trust our
adrenaline.
yeah, like
Yeah,
we trust our guys. Like, we don't care who we go up against.
yeah,
I mean, he's a competitor. What do you want him to say? Like,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was the same
we
thing we
really stole
saw.
this one tonight. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
steal one again. Like, what do you want him to say?
Yeah, I mean, and again, like Virginia did a lot of things wrong. I mean, early in the game, right? Inability to catch a routine fly out that leads to the first run of the game, and then you know, kind of some weird defensive bounces as well. Griffo Farrell commits an error. Culpepper was fantastic again for Kansas State. He is so good at baseball, Jake. I wish people would give him more respect. I'm appreciative that I was able to see him this year in person against Clemson. I purposely went to that game, Jake, thinking that Kansas State was a top 25 team, and nothing that I've seen this weekend or last weekend has changed my mind on that opinion. But obviously for Virginia, right? The Evan Blanco, not his best outing, but by far good enough to win the game. The bullpen, once again, Angelo Tonis does his job. And the Who's, again, Henry Godbout, the hero. That kid has a lot of struggles, but man, when he gets a hold of a baseball, it is fun. Obviously, Griffo Farrell revenges his error with that RBI double. That's really annoying. I mean, the ball would obviously clear the fence and went out of play, but it is annoying if the ball hits off the foul pole. It's also a ground rule double. But yeah, what a game for Virginia. What were your thoughts on this one, Jake?
I mean, first off, Kalen Culpepper, I think, is one of the hottest hitters in the country right now. I've got to see him twice. I got to see him last year in Round Rock, and then this year when they played Houston. He stands out as, I think, the best player on that field. Day's pretty good as well. Bishop takes quality at bats. You mentioned the Godbout home run, but what about that play with, I think it was one out in the ninth, up the middle, backhand, that really kind of just put the dagger in Kansas State's heart? I think that's the one thing that I'm really going to miss about watching O'Farrell and then Godbout, who knows if they're going to move him over to short, is I know he had the error tonight, but it feels like Virginia makes a lot of the routine plays, and they make a ton of next level plays too as well. And then
Yeah.
from a pitching standpoint, I mean, you said Evan Blanco didn't have his best stuff, but I think that this is kind of when you learn a lot about who you are as a pitcher is when you don't have your best stuff, when you kind of have these grinded out,
Yeah.
everything's a battle, the defense is behind me. And again, Kansas State only left 2 guys on base. I think that's the one stat that really kind of jumps out to me, that they were able to capitalize on the traffic that they did have on the bases, but they really didn't get a ton of traffic. And again, Culpepper was, I think, one of the hottest hitters in the country. They limited him to 1 hit with 2 Ks. So whatever seemed to work for him today, I think they just kind of need to do it tomorrow. Um, Again, Kansas State didn't throw Neighbors, so it's a pretty good bet he's going to go tomorrow. They're going to get Kansas State's best shot. Their back's against the wall. Again, they're kind of a team just like West Virginia. I thought that they were a little bit underseeded. They had a few injuries. They kind of got that hot, cold, hot, and their cold was really, really cold. They're playing their best baseball right now, and again, they're going to kind of throw their best shot again because, I mean, they were in the game tonight. I know it was 7-4. Virginia kind of had that 3-run home run in the seventh that broke it open. But again, this game could have very easily gone their way. Virginia made a ton of really great defensive plays to keep Kansas State down. And, if the ball lands 3 feet closer, 3 feet to the left, like, those are base hits. They hit the ball well tonight. It just wasn't their night.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. My question mark for tomorrow for Kansas State is just the pitching, because obviously we know what Tyson Neighbors is, but can they get him in a situation where, like, Jake, I'm going to assume if this is a 1 or 2 run ball game at any point in the 6th or the 7th, you're going to see him anyways. But will
You might even
Kansas
see him in
State?
the fourth. I think he could
You think
come in. He's
so?
done that in the past where he's done that
Do you
fourth to
think though
seventh.
that that's going to be? I mean, I know you got to play right because there's no tomorrow if you lose.
Yeah, you
I
got to
always
empty
just
the
get
chamber.
hesitant because if he goes 4 innings, let's say tomorrow, he's done for game 3. So
Yeah, but you don't want to pull. I mean, I'll use a military reference. When we pulled out of Vietnam, we didn't take the bullets with us. Like, they just left them there. That's kind of what's going to happen there. Like,
no, that's a
you
good
can't.
point.
If they lose, they can't use Tyson Neighbors tomorrow. He's going to
Yeah.
get drafted.
And as an Orioles fan who watched Zach Britton sit in the bullpen when we got walked off by the Blue Jays, I'm calling the I'm the pot
Or
calling the kettle black right now. But
Garrett Cole with the Astros. It's because I'm an Astros fan. That's the one that always kind
yeah,
of sticks with me.
yeah,
But I mean, Virginia. I know that everybody's gonna look at the 24-4 and go, "Oh wow, Florida State was really good." I think Virginia was the most impressive team tonight. They took care of
okay,
business against a quality opponent. They didn't play their best baseball from a pitching standpoint. Hitting was at times sporadic, and they kind of compounded bad at bats. They made adjustments late when they got into that bullpen. 5, 6, 7. They score all 7 of their runs there. They did leave 9 on base, but again, I think that that's kind of what you're going to get from Virginia. They feel like they can win any shootout, and I would put their offense up against A&M's or Georgia's. It truly is one of the best offenses in the country. Do you worry though about old ball coach there comparing it to the 2015 national championship team? He said it feels like 2015 again. Does that kind of worry you at all?
no, only because Brian O'Connor is not the type of guy to talk unless he really believes it. And again, is this team going to win the national title? I mean, right now, Jake, I would say no. But like, do they have the capability? I mean, to be completely frank, if Jay Wolford comes out tomorrow, who's obviously getting the start as announced by Coach O'Connor, if he gets the start tomorrow and does what he did against Mississippi State, and the Who's go on to take it into, and they're heading into Omaha with a 5-0 record in regional play, I like their odds based off their bracket because it's 3 potentially right now. If all things went chalk from what we had happen today, it's 3 ACC teams and Tennessee. And Tennessee is the best team in the country, no doubt about it, in my opinion. But the 1 seed does exist. Like
They also, I don't think they have the pitching that some of these ACC teams face. I know that they have the lineup and they have kind of the SEC beefy bullpen, but
Hmm.
they don't really have a. I mean, their starter threw an inning today.
Yeah, that's fair. So obviously for Virginia, I mean, again, tomorrow is going to be a big thing. Um, Jake, by chance, do you remember who Kansas State's throwing? I know they announced it, but of course I'm drawing a blank and I don't know their roster
I can
like
look it up
that.
on Twitter if you want.
Well, I just wanted to look into his numbers a little bit, but I mean, obviously Jay Woolfolk, you don't really know what you're going to get with him, but hopefully you get a pretty good version of him. I don't have the ability to see the chat. Is anyone in the chat by chance, Jake? I don't know if anyone
Just
is or not,
just
but
Kane's cat.
yeah, my guy Kane's cat.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
Um. Oh,
But
Kansas State. See, this is such an obscure stat. It's the only school in the country to have won a conference title in football, made the Elite Eight in basketball, made the Super Regional in baseball in the last 2 years. I think that they're still them and Virginia Tech. I think they're still the two schools that haven't won a national championship
in a
in any
team sport,
sport.
yeah, that's correct. Yep, that is correct.
Let me see.
So Kansas State is going with Jackson Wentworth, according to Friday starters, which I believe was also announced. So he's got a 4.18 ERA. His numbers honestly are a little bit better than Owen Bremia, but again, we'll see. And again, depending on which Jay Woolfolk, it really comes down to which Jay Woolfolk do you get if you're Virginia. So because obviously if he's not the good Jay Woolfolk, then you're going to burn the bullpen. And Joe Savino, although has been very good, is still not fully stretched out. So he would only have 5 or 6 max
And
probably on
and
the.
this isn't me bashing the ACC or anything like that, but Kansas State's an offense that belongs in the Super Regional. I would say they're in
Oh,
the top half.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean they have the ability if they face subpar pitching to go on a tear. I mean, even if they
Yeah.
face really good pitching, like
I mean,
they
they had
knock
7 base runners and they scored 4 runs. That's the definition of a
efficiency.
good
I mean,
offense.
they knocked out Hagen Smith. I don't think they had a
Yeah.
home run either, and that's kind of their
Yeah, I
calling
mean,
card
this is the
is
thing. Like you mentioned it, Jake. Like they only had 5 hits. They had 1 walk and 1 hit by pitch, but they brought 4 across because what do? They make you pay. Like they steal bases. Now, granted, they ran into an out, which I think really hurt them. I think that was in the third or fourth inning of that play at third, which he was out barely, but he was out. So that was tough, obviously, for Kansas State. But like that's their MO, right? Like they're disciplined hitters. They make you work, and they're going to get on base. And when they get on base, they're more than likely going to bring them home. And that was again, I mean, I was watching this game on my laptop. I was very fortunate. I had probably the best view in the house at the Bosch today. But I had kind of looking down, looking up, looking down. But
I always feel so
watching.
dirty watching other games when you're at doing
I,
media. I don't know
I
about
don't
you.
necessarily only because again I'm able to still tweet and obviously I would flip back and forth. But it was really cool to see again that I like Jake. I don't know if you. I think you're in the group chat. I don't know if you are anymore. I think
No,
they
Monty
deleted
kicked
you
me
or
out.
whatever. Yeah. Well, I was a Kansas State season ticket holder for football when I lived in Nebraska because that was 3 hours from where I was living. I've always had a soft spot for K State. Bill Snyder is my favorite coach in any sport ever. So like I've always enjoyed Kansas State. I went to a couple of their games. The summer collegiate baseball team I worked for in Hastings, Nebraska, had pretty much every freshman K-State player the 2 years I was there. A couple of them, are currently playing, which is kind of cool. So it was overall, K-State is a team that I've enjoyed watching. I strategically went and watched them play at Clemson back in March. This team definitely belongs. They're capable. I mean, they could easily come back and win this super regional. I am not ruling them out.
Yeah.
Some people are. I'm not.
No,
They're
I
good
mean
enough to do
Virginia's
it.
tough right now. That's the only thing. It's really hard for me
Yeah.
to bet against Virginia.
I mean,
I will say
there's an
this.
argument, Jake, that Virginia's been the best team this postseason. Right?
I mean, when you look at the competition and everything, because I mean, I think A&M has but they
Oh,
played a
yeah.
lot easier of a regional. But if you look at the competition in the blend, they got. I
They're in
mean,
the
Virginia got.
conversation.
They got a really tough four. They got a gauntlet of a two and handled them easily. They get a really good Kansas State team. I will say this about Kansas State. My favorite thing that they do is that they don't wear that baby purple that they have, the lavender. Unlike other schools that are sitting at home right now that have lavender baseball uniforms, Kansas State keeps it
Oh,
traditional. They have a great logo. KS looks great on a hat. It looks great on a little jersey. I mean, quintessential just baseball. They got rid of the gray helmets. That was kind of a very tasteful thing that they got rid of. I mean, it went from like here to here. And again, I love Virginia's uniform matchups, but Virginia Kansas State was just a pretty uniform matchup last today.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
I
it's
mean,
last night. No, not quite for you.
yeah, not yet. Which then leads me to the next game, the last game of the night, the one that I was at, which was also, by the way, a beautiful uniform matchup. West Virginia wearing their navy blue with their gold lettering, North Carolina wearing their beautiful whites with the Carolina blue and the white with the Carolina blue lids.
I
North
should say,
Carolina,
Micah, I miss the vests. I'm not really a fan of vests usually, but I
yeah, I do
love
miss their
North.
vest. If there's
Their
a team
vests
with
were so
vests I
sweet.
miss, it's them. Yeah, I agree.
With the stirrups, like when they went to Omaha and played Mississippi State, like those were just
Yeah,
quintessential baseball uniforms. They always
yeah,
had like really short ones too, like Dietrich length. I do miss
yeah.
those, but I mean, first off, I mean it looked like an environment. Like everybody was trying to kind of
It
sneak
was
a peek
nuts.
around the place. So are those areas in the outfield that are unticketed? Those people just kind of walked out there and sat.
Correct. So I talked to some folks pregame. They were there at 6 a.m. taking shifts. They set out 8 or 9 chairs and took shifts, two of them each. That way they could legitimately claim. And tickets ended up dropping to like $40 at first pitch. So if you really wanted to get in the door that bad, you could have. But the field hockey stadium, people were on top of the bleachers. Like kudos to North Carolina for letting people do that and not just being like, nah, kick rocks. But yeah, I mean, I want to start. I know this is an ACC focused show. West Virginia baseball fans are so underrated. Holy crap, I was impressed by them. I knew they always had a good fan base. They get good numbers at that beautiful ballpark. I always call it Mongolia County Park, but I don't think it's pronounced that way. But I'm sorry, West Virginia folks. I don't know how to say
The
the river.
furniture, I call it the furniture ballpark because they have that
That's
furniture
fair.
store that's out behind left.
Yeah, that's true too. It's on that beautiful hill, but it's a really nice ballpark. I've been there for not for a WVU game, but a West Virginia Black Bears game. But it is their fan base was phenomenal. You got to let go. You got Tar Heels, and on the backside you get Let's Go Mountaineers. Like it was really raucous. Both fan bases back and forth. When was it? I want to make sure his first name right before I mess it up. Yeah, when Kyle West hit his second bomb of the game, that place was nuts. And it was so crazy because you heard a hush, like a deep breath, a sigh from the North Carolina fans. And within a second of that, you just hear everyone in blue and gold going nuts. West Virginia fans were awesome. West Virginia, to me, Jake, was the best loser of the day. I know that's a weird, award to give, but they were the best team that didn't come out on top today.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, before we kind of jump into the game, I know that the fans were really excited because they said, "Oh, we get to play in a close super regional," because they were in Arizona last weekend. I didn't realize it was 6.5 hours from Morgantown to Chapel Hill. I don't know why I assumed it was closer, just because of the geography of, I guess, where West Virginia is. I always kind of forget where they are because they're always I think it's an hour south of Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
like my Texas mind from a geography standpoint always kind of forgets where West Virginia is relative to everything else. But yeah, I mean, they felt like the best loser. There was a few plays here and there that when you kind of go back and watch it, um, like the Parks Harbor single that scored 3 runs with the error. That's one
Yeah.
that I bet that they wish they could have
Hey, it
back.
was a double. No, what they ruled us. I think they ruled it a double, and then the third runner scored on an error. But
Yeah, but I mean,
regardless,
regardless, I don't think. I
yeah,
mean, credit to Wilkerson, I think for smelling home Alpha first
yeah,
and not really stopping because it really wasn't even a play. But the flip side of that is on that Gallagher play at the plate when he kind of forgot to cover the plate. They kind of got a run back there. There was just a ton of plays. I think that it was just a truly great baseball game. Neither one of these teams played perfect, but they all had a chance to win. And then Honeycutt delivering with the home run. I had a UNC fan a few weeks ago in my DM saying that Honeycutt's been a disappointment. Um, I don't agree at all. He has been every bit as advertised ever since his freshman year. I know he took a step back last year. He really is one of the best players in the country. JJ Weatherholt's another guy who was 1-1 to start the season. He's been injured a little bit. A few guys have had just ungodly season. It wouldn't
mm,
surprise me to see him kind of sneak back into that top 5 again. But I mean, we had two of the best players in college baseball go head to head, and it really truly was one of the best games of the night. And it was probably one of the better games of the season. It reminded
yeah.
me of that Stillwater regional a few years ago that Noah always talks about.
Yeah, I think was so impressive to me, Jake, was we first off we talk about Vance Honeycutt. sometimes he's had some rough patches offensively, but then he's made up for it defensively. So yeah, I didn't want to say that he's overrated or had a disappointing season. I push
Speed
back on
doesn't
that.
slump. Yeah,
Yeah,
speed doesn't slump.
and I think Coach Forbes would also disagree with that
Yeah,
individual as well.
I would. I mean, I know North Carolina's had a lot of really great baseball players come through there, but from a college career standpoint, I think Vance Honeycutt's in the conversation, and he's definitely,
Oh,
I think, the best center fielder they've ever had.
yeah, I mean, West Virginia was so impressive to me. I mean, first off, Derek Clark, Coach Mazey mentioned post game. I need to clip some of these to put on the College Baseball Central Twitter. I'll probably do it in the morning. But, he mentioned that we basically saw the most modern version of a Nolan Ryan, right? It's a guy that just goes out there and throws till his arm is literally going to fall off. Like Derek Clark said post game that he feels good enough to pitch again tomorrow or again this weekend if he needs to. He's a D2
He's done
guy.
this too. I don't know if you saw that graphic. Probably not because you were at the game, but there was one where he threw like over 106 straight starts and over 103 straight
Oh
starts
yeah,
or
when he was in the
110.
D2 level, they made it sound like him hitting 115 to 120 pitches a start was like just cake work, like light work. And he would do that on a Saturday and then come around and do that on a Wednesday and then come back the next Saturday. Like, I mean, we always
He's
give,
like a softball pitcher. Like he truly
yeah, we
is.
love Charlie Bielenson on this show, right? And it's just a different version of Charlie Bielenson.
Or
Um,
Quinn Matthews, was that his
Quinn
name?
Matthews, man, I
Yeah,
forgot about
Quinn
him.
Matthews 2.0.
Yeah. So shout out
He
to
would
him.
be
He
he'd be
was
an ACC pitcher now though if he was to come
true.
back.
But Derek Clark was fantastic. Obviously, he's a competitor, and it only felt so. It's so funny, Jake, because like when we're in the open air. Shout out to some of the individuals that were sitting next to me, Tyler Jennings from Prospect Live, and then Logan Campbell, one of the local news reporters. We were kind of talking about just the ninth inning, and when he came when Luke Stevenson came up, the first thing we said was, it only makes sense for him to homer here, right? Tie the ball game, because he gave up that free run basically with just an absolute. In the post game, it was so fun because obviously they're able to laugh about it now because they won. But he's like, yeah, I just straight up just don't know what I did wrong. Like I know what I did wrong, but like I don't even realize why I did that. Like he's like, I just caught the ball and thought I was in the right spot, and then put my glove down and went, oh, I'm nowhere near the plate, and he beat me to it. But he obviously ties it right. We all kind of said, oh, it's going to be justice. And then it was so funny because when it was a 3-0 count on Honeycutt there, we said, well, do you just intentionally walk him? We're like, yeah, Casey Cook's over on the day, but do you really want to pitch to Casey Cook? And, I thought it was great because, why am I drawing a blank now? I already said his name once, West Virginia's coach. Oh, my gosh. Mezzi?
Yeah, Messi. I think that's
Yeah.
his name.
He mentioned, people obviously one of the first questions asked, did you think about just intentionally walking him to go to Casey Cook? And he simply said, I think the statistical numbers, and I also agree just personally, that there's more of a chance to Casey Cook, who loves to singles in the winning run, than Vance Honeycutt hitting a 2-run home run to walk it off. And I thought that, again, on the 3-0 pitch, he gets it was Ada Major. He gets him to basically just whiff on the pitch. And Honeycutt even said post game, he's like, I after that pitch kind of took a step back, breathed, told myself just drive through the ball, like don't get too excited, because he was too excited on that pitch. And what does he do? And that thing was a moonshot. But I mean, this is one of those games, and again, going back to West Virginia's post-game press conference, they all kind of agreed, like, this is one of those games that sucks in the moment, especially if you're a West Virginia person, but you learn to appreciate the games that you get to attend, right? Like, I was with Wake Forest last year for that, Louder Skeens game, and now the pain of being with the Wake Forest side when they lost, right? That was one of the best games I've ever seen, if not the best game I've ever seen. Well, like, this is one of those games again, like, was one of the best games you've ever seen. Both teams had answers. Like, neither team deserved to lose this game. Both teams did enough to win. The difference was one team was a little bit better than the other, and not to slander West Virginia, but North Carolina's roster is a little bit better than theirs. And I think that
Yeah.
was honestly the difference here.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too, I mean, if you walk Vance Honeycutt for Casey Cook, it is a batting average. So if he's 0 for 3 and hitting over 350, I think the odds of him getting a hit are super, super high. And again,
Yeah.
make them beat you. Like we
Yeah.
see it all the time with coaches when they send runners from third and they need to make 2 perfect throws to get a guy out at the plate. Make Vance Honeycutt beat you. It didn't
Yeah.
work out tonight. I'm sure this one's a really, really tough one because I'd have to check the statistics about teams that get walked off in game one, what they kind of come back and do. Because this feels like one where if you're West Virginia, I mean, you threw everything that you had. I mean, Weatherholt was stealing bases. They were doing a lot of little things right. They were being aggressive on the base pass. Their starter almost throws a complete game. I wouldn't even say they left him in too long. Like he was still being effective.
Oh yeah.
And, it just ends up not being the right way. I don't think they're the home team tomorrow, though, are they? They're uh, West Virginia.
West Virginia's the home team tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, they'll get to bat last, which I think was a very, very big part of the game today. Which
Oh yeah.
that's why you go out and earn being a host. Like
Mm-hmm.
the flip side is you could sleep in your own bed, but you also get to be the home team, and I think that was kind of a very big part about it because West Virginia has some guys that can really swing it. I mean, like Grant Hussey down there, he's the school leader in home runs. Weatherholt's 1-1 likely. So I mean, West Virginia can really swing it, and they're gonna get their best shot again tomorrow. Coach is retiring. Maybe a little Mike Martin magic is coming through, but I mean, this North Carolina team feels like It feels like there's so many teams here that haven't won a title yet that it feels like this is the year. I think North Carolina is one of those teams where it's like this is the year, this is the year, this is the year. Like I know that's really early to say, but I mean, they go 7 or 8 deep. They have great starting pitching. They have a deeper bullpen. I I really wish they had Vulture Boaz because I think they would make this team just unbeatable at this point. I kind of miss old Coffee Boy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too, and you gotta give this guy a shout out. Matt Poston's the winning pitcher. He goes 3 innings here, doesn't allow a single base runner in his outing. Just double check to make sure I'm not mistaken on that.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no
right.
base runners. He strands the obviously they had the sack bunt with first and second that moves the runners over. And in the post game press conference, I think the greatest thing that he said was, I stunk against LIU. He's obviously the one that gave up the big inning. Obviously, North Carolina ended up walking that game off last weekend in the Chapel Hill Regional. But, he was the one that kind of fell apart there late in the game against LIU. And he even said, he's like, I just went into today saying, I'm going to throw my stuff. I'm going to attack them. If they hit it, they hit it. Like, I can't overthink this. I need to just attack the zone. He was like, I'd rather throw it in the dirt and just if they don't swing, they don't swing. But they did swing today. And he was fantastic. I mean, he saved North Carolina because it was looking like for a while there with Alden Matthews coming out, it was going to be a situation where this team was going to have to use more of their bullpen than they really wanted to. And they didn't have to. West Virginia obviously doesn't really use any of their arms. Ada Major goes 2/3 of an inning. But, North Carolina
I mean,
is
Aiden
able
Majors also
to.
threw 6 pitches, so if they
Yeah,
really wanted to
exactly.
use him later in
So
the
like
weekend, they definitely can.
West Virginia barely taps into their bullpen, but Matt Poston saves North Carolina from using much of theirs, which is obviously huge again because of the injuries. Because again, they're a young group from a pitching standpoint, at least. It's going to be really interesting tomorrow. I can't wait. I'm hoping, Jake, that I get to go to the Bosch, knowing my Who's are going to Omaha, but. It
Yeah, I was
was
gonna
it
say, what's
was
your plan for tomorrow? Because Clemson plays at 2, and Georgia plays at noon. Like you could be in a lot of great places really fast.
not unfortunately the where North Carolina is, Jake. I'm 4 hours from both of those places, so I
Oh,
can't
really?
do any of them. Yeah,
You're just
but
going just North Carolina tomorrow?
so the plan is, the plan would be though if North Carolina wins tomorrow, then I'll head to Clemson for game 2 on Sunday. If obviously if West Virginia forces a game 3 here, then unless there's a game 3 at Clemson, which spoiler alert, I do think there'll be 3 games in Clemson. Um, you know, then I'd be there too. So that's kind of the thought process there.
It's kind of crazy
The
how
closest
many of the
super actually
regionals,
to me
yeah.
right now, Jake, is Charlottesville. Charlottesville is only about 2.5 hours away.
And then, I mean, Knoxville isn't really too far either.
It's about 5.5, actually.
It's just crazy how much that region has it right now.
Oh yeah, I mean
Because
it's
Kentucky's close to Knoxville. Knoxville's close to Chapel Hill. There's Athens is close. Like that
yeah.
whole area. And then even then, Florida State's really not that far from Athens at the end of the day.
No, I
It's
mean,
like
like
10 minutes to Georgia.
within 10 hours, you could do pretty much 5 supers. I'm trying to remember how many are actually on this side of the.
Who's the outlier? I mean,
You
A&M's
could do
obviously the out.
Georgia, you could do North Carolina, you could do Virginia, you could do Tennessee, you could do Kentucky, you could do. I already said Georgia, I believe. I'm
So you can
forgetting
do
the other
every regional
ACC one.
except Texas A&M,
You can
basically.
do all 4 ACC home regionals. Right? There's 4 ACC home regionals. I'm not tripping on that.
One, two, three, four. Yep, there's
You can
4.
do all 4 AC home regionals. You can do 3 of the. You can do 7 of the 8. The only one you can't do is A&M because where I'm located in Johnson City, I'm 4 hours from every single regional except for Tallahassee. But Tallahassee is only about 7 or 8. So I guess probably from Kentucky to Tallahassee would be a 12-hour difference. But again, like that's still crazy that in a 12-hour window you can get 7 of the 8 regionals. And if you want to shrink that down to 6, you're within like a 6-hour radius of every single one. So obviously crazy times. But Jake, that's all I've got. Anything else you want to add? If not, obviously, I'd like to shower up and get ready for bed.
I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna get some exciting baseball tomorrow. We get to see Clemson, Florida, NC State, Georgia. Those
Yeah,
I think
actually,
those.
Jake, what game are you most excited for tomorrow that it has not series-wise started?
A&M Oregon. I get to be there in person. Like,
Okay. Is that really the one you're most excited for, though?
I'm very excited. I mean, Oregon. I know that we're gonna go on a tangent here about a Big Ten versus SEC team, but I mean, Oregon's got 3 great
Whoa, giving them the
starters.
Big Ten already. They're not even Pac-12's dead to Jake.
I think this is the. It'll have to debate whether some of the track stuff, depending on time, but Oregon could very well be the last Pac-12 team that kind of plays. But they throw 3 great starters. A&M's got 2 lefty aces, and then they have 2 stud bullpen arms. Obviously, the power on both sides. A&M broke their school record. Oregon State's. I think that if they did the math correctly, they said that they would break the home run record if they kept playing by the second game in Omaha. So they're really kind of closing on their home run record as well. It's going to be ungodly hot. During BP, it was 100 degrees even,
Yeah, it
and
was
that's kind of when
94 here today, Jake, which was crazy.
it's. I don't know how Oregon's going to do it. They have a lot of SoCal boys, and they have a lot of people from the Pacific Northwest. The deck's kind of stacked against Oregon, which they did it in a regional where no one doubted them the last 2 years. So I think playing on the road will kind of play there. But if you're going to make me pick an SEC or an ACC series, Florida Clemson. I mean, Florida's kind of playing like the team that everybody in the media was ridiculed for saying they're really, really good. Clemson, they've been the cardiac cats. They've beaten good teams with walk-offs. They've beaten bad teams with walk-offs. The never say die cats. I'm just excited to see because Florida has a sporadic bullpen, but they also have a talented bullpen. So that'll be interesting to see because they're very capable of shutting down lineup down there at the end. But I'm just really excited to see who kind of pushes through and meets us in Omaha.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Obviously, I'll be seeing you out there in Omaha. Unfortunately, probably not till Sunday at the earliest, but hopefully I'll get there by Sunday so I can at least see all 8 teams. But at least I'll be there for the big part, right? The semifinals and championship. But yeah, no, this was fun, Jake. Thanks for hopping on, obviously, and kind of being a part of the fill-in for Monty. Monty, if you end up watching this, just know you've been replaced with Jake. Everyone loves Jake on the ACC side, but thank you everybody that tuned in to listen, watch wherever you get this. Jake, if you can download this, send me the audio so I can put it on or send it to Monty. You can send it to me, whatever, so I can get it on the podcast platform that we have, the Just Means Last ACC show. But thank you again, and Jake, enjoy College Station. Don't get stuck in too much traffic with all the. I've experienced those soccer games before. I went to stop in Atlanta one time at Bobby Dodd, and it was like Honduras versus somebody. And I mean, dude, you would have thought that like the freaking Super Bowl was in town. The traffic, the
go
tailgates,
crazy.
it was nuts, man. So like, obviously, good luck with that, especially with obviously, I'm assuming a packed out Bluebell Park as well. But thanks everybody for watching. And as always, it just means a little bit less here in ACC country, and go ACC.